Hi guys, I'm Alice from ataraxiapainting studio, and today we're gonna paint some models from Cursed City. Hard to pick one, huh? Yeah, let's go. I guess there was, and there still is, a big controversy about Cursed City and whether the lack thereof. I don't want to express myself on the topic. I'm just confident that people are gonna find copies from local stores and online stores in their country. So I wouldn't worry about that. That's why I didn't decide to quit on Cursed City and actually do some tutorials. I thought I'd try the new setup. Write down in the comments if you like this setup with background and thingy and the guitars. You can't see the guitars, but it's here. So. Half topic, let's get on with it. I'm trying to get my girlfriend into Warhammer. I thought Cursed City might be a real good gateway. Okay. I want to paint some models really quickly, do my heroes and enemies with a little bit more care. And I actually picked him because I was inspired by an awesome artist on Instagram who painted this model in a very unique and interesting way with unique style. He actually inspired me to paint the same model and maybe copy him a little bit. A lot. But the idea was the same. Get him done in an afternoon and just be ready for the game. If you want to see more heroes or enemies, or if you want to see the troops, write a comment down below. Ask me what we want to see next. If you rather see a good speed painting of the troops or some other heroes with more care, but still quite quick to do. So I have to pick a color palette quickly without actually copying everything. It posted also whips of this project, so I didn't want to start with the off-white colors. I want to keep this skin in a greenish side because I like the box art of this figure. And so I decided to pick green as main color that I'm gonna bring up and you're just gonna see in the recesses, teal, drapes, and just red. The colors that I used are olive green from AK Interactive. I think you can use like Death Guard green from GW Substitute. I used some black. For the main highlight tone, I used the Decomposed Flash from AK Interactive that you can substitute with Rock Hard Fresh GW. And finally, the other main color, and I will display on screen the other little color, but the other main color was red. I did a whole base coat that you actually can't see me doing on screen because I was lazy in chrome red. Before we begin, I remind you to subscribe and hit the bell button if you want to stay up to date with the news of the channel. I don't post every single week, but I do post regularly. Click the bell, the yada 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 yadas, usual stuff with YouTube. And also, if you want to support me in doing this, you can support me on Patreon, in which you get nice rewards and feedback from me, the usual stuff. I started applying a mix of olive green and black mixed together, pretty much half and half. And I start applying the color in a very diluted way, usually using the same technique that I've been using for a while now. So building up a texture on that grimy, cringy, wrinkly skin of this Gatekeeper, and building it up, letting the brush do the work. So I think it's a very interesting technique. I hope I can get Richard Gray, who actually taught me this technique, through Patreon. I'm hoping I can get him to join me in a stream live. So let's hope we can do that. So it's not as diluted that it runs all over the model, but it's not as thick that it stains the surface with the pigment. So the pigment has to be very transparent, has to leave marks. The thing that they teach you not to do it when you're beginning, that you have to do now. I know what I'm doing, always. I do a couple of layers of that, and then I start adding decomposed flesh to the mix. So now we have olive green, black, and decomposed flesh. And I build up that brightness in few layers, adding more decomposed flesh to the mix. Proceed with pure decomposed flesh, and here with maximum lights you really have to be careful, because if your paint is as wet as the previous step, it is not gonna work. Just use this paint in a less diluted way, but this also means that you have to use a more controlled brush stroke. I think it's very nice to see brush strokes on minis. That's the style I'm using. These days I like not smooth and perfect metallics, smooth. I think there's a place for smoothness, but if I have to paint dead skin or orc skin or lame guy from Necromunda's skin, I'm not gonna be smooth. I don't want to be smooth, so I'm using this technique. But at the end, when you're doing the maximum lights, you have to consider that you are gonna have to stipple in. So that texture that naturally creates itself on a bigger surface, on a smaller surface, you're gonna have to create it yourself. So you're gonna start stipple and moving around. And also remember to follow the volumetry of the piece as much as you can, or as much as you think it looks good, because I don't think if you're painting this not for display but just for having something beautiful to play with, it's okay if it's not 100% correct. So as I was saying, brush strokes are good, but they have to be on scale. Like Arnaud told me once, brush strokes are good, but you're not painting in a big canvas. So your brushstroke has to be proportionate with your canvas. So if you're painting a big bust, your brushstroke can be bigger. If you're painting 30mm scale bigger, your brushstrokes are gonna be points, pretty much. And that's good. I like that. But you need to have developed a little bit more of that brush control. And so as you go up with your light tones, the less diluted paint you will have on your palette, on your brush. So contrast here is very important, and I was looking for two types of contrast here, light and dark, so having the in the shadows and in the dark and the lights, and also warm-cold contrast. And following this concept, I'm gonna do a glaze of magenta ink with magenta liquid ink, a little bit mixed with the red. The red is a warm color and the green is not, so it's gonna pop. Plus they're kind of complementary, so it works very well. And yeah, I do a glaze of that just to give more punch to the shadow. Then I proceed with the last step on the skin, which is the pure white part, and nothing to say about that. You know, I'm using more controlled brush strokes, less diluted paint, but still diluted because you don't want chalkiness on your skin. And that's that. Following the volumetry and following what I think is cool. And I'm done. I think it took me 1 hour to do this. Then I move on with the rope thingy. Never mind, you know the thing. At the beginning, I just wanted to do winey red, like in the box art, because as I said before, I really liked the box art. But then, this guy here changed my mind, so I had to do that thing. And this process was a little bit more complicated because I didn't quite visualize the process. So I started with orc flesh mixed or desaturated with black, and from that I could have just picked turquoise, but I was lazy. I wasn't gonna get up, and yeah. So I just desaturated the orc flesh from Scale 75, which is one of my favorite paints, with some black, and started applying it directly on the red. And from there I started highlighting, adding some decomposed flesh, which has like a little bit of yellow in it. So I started doing that, but then I was not really happy about how the shadows looked, and I ended up covering most of the red with a darker version of the same desaturated orc flesh color. And I started pretty much all over again, doing the same process, but covering up all that winey red. Happens. Smart to choose a smaller palette and try to use the same highlight color in different areas to give cohesiveness. Cohesive. Doing this highlight, just be careful to balance the saturation of this greenish teal, because we already had black, which desaturated, and we're adding also decomposed flesh, which is desaturating even more. Just keep a pot of pure orc flesh on the side and add it when necessary. And I apply a very diluted version of Mephiston Red. I used an AK Interactive Red, but you can use Mephiston. AK Interactive is just, I think, better, but sometimes it's kind of, you have to mix, and I'm lazy. But yeah, I use that, and just be careful here, and it's the same thing. In the upper part of the rope, where you're gonna define the parts, the little parts of the upper, where the light hits, there, it's obvious that you can't use diluted paint because it's gonna run over in the recesses. And you don't really want that, do you? I tell you, I know things. So for this reason, just be careful of using less diluted paint in the upper parts. And the next step, we can add a little bit of Evil Sun Scarlet to do the upper parts, but really you can leave it like that. And if you want to really be clean and you don't want the texture on your... I don't know what to tell you. I guess you should watch another tutorial, because I'm not gonna clean these ropes. They are not the... He's a decomposed guy, come on! You can't have clean ropes, can he? The last step was to do the rusty weapon, which I don't know the name of. Is it a shovel? Is it a scythe? Is it a... What the hell is it? Please tell me in the comments, because I don't know. Yeah, I took care of that, and I started using the rust effect from GW and realized it was completely dry, so I had to do my own. And since I was pretty lazy, I wasn't gonna get up and take an actual paint of orange and use that, was I? Because I hadn't, when I picked my colors, I didn't think about the rust part, so I didn't have it on my table. And I didn't want to get up, but I did have some Chimera yellow. So I mixed magenta and Chimera yellow, and it ended up with a beautiful orange, which I know, because when you start mixing, that's the beautiful of mixing. You know which color goes where, and how do you make colors. It's beautiful. I will put in the main screen a good substitute for this rust color. If it might be useful, sometimes it's useful to have the actual color. I know, sometimes it is. Sometimes you have to move on from that. Especially in this case, because it's just a rusty orange. It's nothing really special. I stipple it in with old brush, and I stipple in some lighter version of this color mixed with decomposed flesh, and that's it. And the last step is, after it dries, I just do some oxidation with using the same orc flesh and in a very diluted form, and I put it on the most likely part to be oxidized and grimy. That's it. So this was very fun. I was very inspired by the work of this artist. I thank him for actually giving me the inspiration to do this piece, because I was kind of stuck. And that's it for me for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, for staying with me till the end. If you did, well, I'm done. Please write in the comments, what do you want to see next? You want to see armor painting? Do you want to see the skeleton parts of this box? Or do you want to see other heroes or enemies? Write down in the comments. From us, it's all. Would you like to be in the outros? Tell me. Tell me. Do you like to be in the outros? Bye guys. Skeleton of this box.